Vegas Around Town. I have Alexandra Harbushka here.
Hey.
She's the new co-host. She's a mom, wife, YouTuber, owns her own business. She's the founder of Life with Herpes podcast. You're doing it all.
I'm trying to do it all, yeah.
And you're not even originally from Vegas.
I'm not from Vegas. I know.
I feel like this is deja vu.
It is.
Yeah, so talk about why Vegas.
Why Vegas?
Yeah, it's and because you're originally from California.
I'm Southern California. Yeah, I'm originally from California. My husband and I, we had just gotten married. We got married in Cabo and we flew into San Diego to clear customs and then went directly to Vegas. Literally, like didn't go home, just kept going, came to Vegas, wanted to find a place to live because we were going to move. And at the time, Bill Gaylord, my husband. You guys all know Bill.
Bill Gaylord, the host of the show.
Yes.
He's been MIA lately, but I'm getting him, probably get him next week.
Yeah, he's excited. So anyways, his company at the time was like, and he's in mortgage, and his company at the time was like, hey, we want to expand to either Arizona or Nevada. And both Bill and I have roots in Arizona. We both went to University of Arizona as well. And we both thought, you know what, let's just go someplace. We're newlyweds. Let's just go someplace and start our own family, own friends, own traditions, all that, and just start over. So we picked Vegas. And at the time, being in Southern California, I'd been to Vegas. I mean, like I knew like I just knew everything about it. I mean, it's so easy from San Diego, and was here, gosh, in my early 20s, like every weekend.
But then you moved to not the Strip.
We looked at the Strip. We're like, we're newlyweds. Oh. Yeah, we're like, we're newlyweds. Let's try it. But we decided that if we're going to move here, we're not going to live on the Strip permanently. We do want, like, I wanted a dog and a backyard and that in the future. So we decided, we went to the district here in Henderson and we loved it. It was so cool because we could walk everywhere and walk to the casino. And like I was mentioning before we were recording, again, newlyweds, it just felt so cool to have that like concept of being newlyweds when you get your first apartment and you unpack. Like obviously it wasn't our first apartment, but like we moved into an apartment. Like we moved into an apartment. It just felt really just like cool. Fun. Yeah. No like overhead. Like you didn't care. It wasn't, it was just fun.
And the place you lived in too was Green Valley, and that's kind of a cool place. It doesn't feel too isolated. And then the fact that you moved in the district, which is like a mall area, outdoor mall area, to me, that always felt like Irvine.
Yeah.
Kind of felt like San Diego.
Like Irvine
actually feels like San Diego too.
A little bit.
You guys have all those outdoor malls.
We do.
Right by the Whole Foods that we go to. There's like that little area that feels like the district to me. I wanted to touch on like your history a little bit as far as like your background.
So I went to University of Arizona. I was a senior. It was Christmas break. So, I'm home and my dad asks me, he takes me to breakfast. And it was like a serious breakfast. You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like you know that like tone in your parents' voice or like the grip or like I was too old for that. But like my mom used to have this like grip on my arm, like you know the tone or whatever. So I knew the tone. I'm like, uh-oh. So my dad and I go to breakfast and he goes, so what are you going to do when you graduate? And I'm like, I don't know. It's like December. I have till May, and that's eons for a 22-year-old. He's like, well, you need to get a job. So, you're not doing anything until you get a job. So of course I squandered my time over Christmas break because you're 22.
Yeah.
And then it comes around for spring break and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go with my friends and we're going to go on a cruise and we're going to go to Mexico. And my parents were like, do you have a job lined up? And I was like, nope. And so they're like, no, you're coming home. You're coming home for spring break. So I had to come home. And they're like, you're interviewing. So I interviewed. And here's the funny thing is I gained
home in San Diego at this time.
San Diego.
Right.
Yeah. I'd gained so much weight. That's my last semester of college. Like my one pair of dress pants didn't fit, like I had to like tie a scarf over because like they didn't button.
Was it because you were eating like college food?
Oh, totally. There's this place called the Frog and Firkin where you get like the best fries.
Yeah.
Like,
college food. It's just, you don't care.
You care. It's just, that's your life.
So your dad, I know your dad, he's very military.
He's military.
So he's like, you need to get a job.
Yeah, you need to get a job. So I interviewed and I, of course, did the career fair, but nothing really turned of that. When I came back to San Diego, I interviewed for a new home builder. And so I ended up getting a job as a salesperson for a new home community. So that was upon graduation.
So that was, you were in the model homes and the realtors would come in and show people.
Yeah. Or buyers or just people without a real estate agent. They'd come in and they would tour the home. So it was, what's really cool about that though, is I did understand the integrity of a home, how a home's built, a foundation, an outlet, stucco, like all of those things that now, as I look at a home, I have an eye for it.
You have an eye for it. But no, what's cool about that is it's a professional industry, right?
Yeah.
It's like serious business.
Yeah. It's
so
a
from
huge
college
purchase. It's
to that.
the most important purchase one could argue that you're going to make in your life,
Did you take it seriously?
I did. I took it seriously. Again, I was 22 at the time, so it is hard just to have perception of what that means. And I was assigned to one of our higher end homes. So it was $800,000 homes is what they began at. So, I'm dealing with big dollars, big down payments, things like that.
And what year was this? Was this 2000?
This is 05 to 08.
Before the crash.
During the crash, before the crash, the whole crash.
And you stayed, so then that's your first job straight out of college.
That was my first job straight out of college, opposed to like you have other jobs I started working when I was 16, but like my first career, right? Yeah. Career job.
Well, basically how long did you stay as a
salesperson? So 2 years.
2 years.
2 years. So then I lost my job. They closed down the mall. Well, it was good news. I sold all the homes, and it's one of those things, it's either damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't make any sales, you lose your job. But if you close a community, then there's nothing else to sell. Then unless they have another project coming on, you don't have a job. And I ended up moving to New York with an ex-boyfriend. So I worked for Ralph Lauren. And that experience going into, it was literally Devil Wears Prada. I mean, literally, I could tell you so many stories from behind the scenes of because celebrities would come in, or like just how like serious the fashion industry.
Because Ralph Lauren's a luxury.
Oh yeah,
high end. It's a high end brand, right? Because it's designer.
Yeah,
right.
and
did you actually get to meet Ralph Lauren?
So Mr. Lauren.
Oh, dang! You can't call him Ralph.
No, Mr. Lauren.
Wow.
Yeah. So he had his driver. He had this assistant. We called him Mr. Perfect because his hair was always perfect and he was like extremely handsome and like always put together. So Mr. Perfect would come into the mansion just to like drop off things or give us information or whatever. And so we would get tips from Mr. Lauren's driver on where he was located and if he was coming into the mansion. And if he was coming into the mansion, it was like full on scurry, like, because we couldn't, as a female, I had to wear high heels all the time. But if you're working in retail all the time, you just, some days you need to wear flats. So I had like scurry to put my high heels on.
Oh, wow.
It was interesting.
What was that story you were saying off camera about the Pope?
So I was saying I got to, meet a lot of really interesting people. Arnold Schwarzenegger came through when he was governor of California. Sheryl Crow was big. Ivana Trump was getting married, and she had this huge, the dress code of like, you had to wear florals and they had to be pastels. So like all of Madison Avenue was stressed out about like, and you couldn't have the same dress. So they're like, oh, so-and-so got this dress for her wedding. Like it was very, they were very stressful about it. Sure. Anyways, but the Pope lives next door to Ralph Lauren's mansion when he's in residency in New York. So we went through a background check and security in order to work there. And you'd open the windows and they'd see like snipers, like. Oh wow. Yeah, it was.
He has a Pope mobile too, right?
Yeah, his little Prada shoes. Yeah, he was the Italian dude.
So then San Diego to New York.
Back to San Diego. The market had crashed. I can remember Lehman Brothers closing, that was 08. Come back, it's 09. And because I had former real estate background as well as sales with high-end fashion, I started working in the mortgage world. So, being able to take what I learned in new home sales and other types of sales, and I was in that for probably a total of 10 years. Mm-hmm. So
you worked in Bank of America?
A lot of different Bank of America, MetLife.
MetLife, wow.
I worked for MetLife with Snoopy.
Yeah, wow. That was the mascot, right?
Yeah.
They all have their mascots.
Yes. I mean, Snoopy's pretty cool.
Yeah, Snoopy is cool. Did you like the mortgage industry?
No. I thought I did. I mean, it's fascinating and helps people get in homes and all that. But no, it wasn't who I am. It's just not my character. And at the time, it was like 2014, and I was kind of like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Do I want to stay in the mortgage industry? Like, where am I going with this? And I was a member of a business club in downtown San Diego called the University Club, and we there'd be lots of different events where they bring people in to speak or cocktail receptions or things like that. So one of them was on entrepreneurship and it was on social media. So we had John Lee Dumas, who is like the apex of podcasting. We had Mari Smith, and she is like the Facebook guru. Like Facebook contacts her and that's like,
this was an event?
Yeah. And then Michael Stelzner, who puts on Social Media Marketing World in San Diego. So these were 3 really big social media people. And at the time, I had never even heard of a podcast. And so I left that event with Bill, and I was like, Bill, I'm starting a podcast. And he's like, great. And so I was like, well, should it be in mortgage? Should I, improve in that area? Or should it be something completely my own and have nothing to do with mortgage? And he's like, no, he's like, it is not you. Mortgage is not you. You don't sparkle in that. Like, he's like, so make it your own, figure it out. And what's so interesting is this was in 2015 now when I launched my first podcast, and it took me like 6 months to figure out how to do it.
Right.
Because it was so new and there wasn't that much support.
Yes, that's super new.
Like, how do you record? How do you record a Zoom call? There wasn't Zoom, it was Skype. How do I record a Skype call? How do I do this?
Yeah.
So I launched my first podcast. It was called Sex, Money, Food. And it was super edgy. I was nervous about that whole thing because the word sex. And, it got me in the door of learning how to podcast. And at one point I was asked to speak at a podcasting conference in Orlando. And during that presentation, I was asked to share something extremely vulnerable about myself. So, I start preparing some things and I'm working on it and I'm showing Bill and I'm like, so Bill, here's what I'm going to talk about. And he's like, okay, that's not that vulnerable. That's not that important. Not that's not important, but what's the big deal about that? And he's like, you should share that you have herpes. And I was like, no.
That was Bill's idea.
It was Bill's idea. Wow. I was like, absolutely not. Like, the only people that know are like you and, ex-boyfriends and like my best friend, but absolutely not. I'm not sharing the world that I have herpes. And he's like, no, that's who you are. That's part of you. He's like, if anybody, you have the confidence to do it. So you should do it. So here I am in Orlando. I get on stage and it's like also a room full of men. And, here I am, a woman, but like just a lot of times women can be a little bit more, like sympathetic towards it. And you're like,
sure.
How am I going to get them to like crack open here? So anyways, I shared to the whole world, felt like that I have.
So you shared.
Yeah.
That you had herpes.
Genital herpes, nonetheless.
To a
crowd. To a crowd.
But before you I'm just sharing it with a couple people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Of course. Because it's a stigma.
Yeah, no, but that's a good, that's a big 180 right there. I like that.
Totally. Yeah. So, I'm like the night before, and I love public speaking. So I'm not nervous to speak, but I was like nervous to share this. And as soon as I did it, I was like, oh, the weight's off.
Sure.
So what I noticed from that, and this is really important for all entrepreneurs, for really all of us, is a couple things. One, that when I shared something really personal, it allowed the crowd to connect to me. So that like you could hear a pencil drop in the room type of thing. So you allowed connection. It also, I made some people cry. So that was also some big things. And then it allowed people to come up to me and be like, I have it too. Thank you. I just never had anybody to connect with that, or like, I don't know, or my child has it and I never knew how to handle it. And wow, thanks for doing this. So when I learned that, I was like, okay, this is something that I should open up about. And so I launched a podcast on this in Memorial Day. So Memorial Day in 2017.
This is, wow. Yeah.
So we're still pretty fresh.
Yeah, this is still fresh. So when I met you, you just started it.
I just launched it.
Yeah. Whoa. So how is it so far?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. So of course, in anything you start, right, it's a bumpy road. You don't understand like what's the best way. One of my major concerns was, and the reason why I picked podcasts was because of the safety of it, meaning people who have herpes don't want anybody else to know that they have herpes. So right. I thought, okay, podcast is perfect because it's on your phone. That's like really the only way to access it at the time, right? Now there's like all different, but like, you know, you got to go to, you know, your podcast little app and so it's not
audio.
Yeah, it's audio. You can just put your headphones in at the gym, or you can put your you know, you can be driving or if you take the subway or whatever, however you commute. So I thought that
because meaning your guests may want to be anonymous.
Completely.
Right. Yeah. So that way, because this is a video podcast as well.
I wasn't video.
You weren't doing video.
I did record it as video, which is interesting. So I recorded it. So
but you wanted to keep it confidential for people.
Well, I did, but here's where it boomed, which was so interesting in a marketing business owner mindset. Again, we think we know our clients, but we don't. So I did it as a podcast, and like, at the time, I was the only herpes podcast. Nobody else was really even taught. There was like one or two sex ed ones, but it was like an untapped area. And I also just threw the video on YouTube, just like threw it on and never even looked at YouTube for a year. Like just every time I would just like throw it on there, barely did any description, no SEO, just threw it up there. And all of a sudden I look like a year later and I was like, whoa, I was getting... I don't remember now how many views, but now in 2020, I have over 1 million views on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
So that my audience, and what I learned from this is my audience really, or the people living with herpes, what they wanted is to see somebody normal. They didn't want to hear about it. They wanted to actually see me and see what I looked like and see my life and see like behind the screen.
Aren't you like an official spokesperson
for a telehealth company? Yeah.
What is that telehealth
It's called,
company?
I love it. It's called Herp Alert. So telehealth is also relatively new, and it's an online platform and a way to be clinically diagnosed with herpes. So again, it takes out that insecure feeling of like, I got to call my doctor and like that, like, oh, you got asked the receptionist, like, why are, you know, the receptionist like, why are you making an appointment? And you're like, you don't want to say, oh, I think it's herpes. Like, that's just embarrassing. So it takes all that out.
So this is a chance thing. Like just you went with something.
I made lemonade out of lemons.
And it just started growing organically and you ran with it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
I mean, and I want to back up because now it's like it's like not a big deal to talk about herpes, right? But at the time when I was diagnosed in 2011, I was devastated, absolutely crushed, devastated, felt like, you know, all my hopes and dreams, everything I'd worked towards would never happen because now I have herpes. I didn't think I would get to marry the person that I was in love with. I didn't, you know, I thought like I'll get married, but not like to the man of my dreams. You know, maybe I would have children, maybe not. Maybe I would just kind of like hump, you know, hump wasn't the word. Ho
it's
hum.
Okay.
I was saying ho hum.
This YouTube channel is made not for children, so we can we can swear here. It doesn't matter.
Like just like ho hum along in life.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
wow. But then look. So then you take this negative in quotes thing that happened to you, and you've literally not only turned it around into a positive. You built a community around there.
Yeah.
You're the spokesperson. You're like a leader, right? You're kind of an expert in it now. People come to you for advice, and then you built a business around it, which is like, to me, is like
exactly what everyone wants to do, right?
Yeah,
yeah. And
so talk about how the business part of this, like if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. So that. I want to go back to, you know, my real estate and working for corporate America in mortgage, you know, real estate, also Ralph Lauren. That really set the foundation for myself to be able to create my own business. So I took what I learned from, you know, processes and systems and follow through. And if you don't have the traffic coming in, then you can have, you know, your support system there. But if there's no one walking in the door, you can't support anyone. Meanwhile, you can have people walking in the door, but if you have nothing to support them with, then you don't have a business either. So that was really important.
Did the light bulb go off when you saw the YouTube views? Yeah.
I went, oh. But then still, you don't know, like, how do I funnel it? How do I get people in there? You know, traffic and conversion. I didn't really understand that side of it.
Yeah, talk to me about that. I actually don't know.
Yeah,
so tell me how you, from that YouTube moment, where you're like, boop, there's a lot of people looking at me. How do I capitalize on this? Or how do I take advantage?
How do I monetize it?
Or monetize, how to make money off of it.
And that's something too.
Not in a bad way, but just
absolutely.
Hey, we need to eat.
And I'm doing a disservice if I don't provide this service, right? And I truly believe that. So because when we're diagnosed with herpes, we are alone, we're on an island. I've talked to so many people that wanted to kill themselves, like are suicidal, help them through that. So it was something I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Like I have to do this. It's my calling, right? So one of the things I started with is a community. So how do I create a community and how do I make it paid? So figuring out platforms to host a community on that's safe, because I can't be a Facebook group. Okay. That's not like, oh, my cousin who I know, who you know, that friend who knows the friend from second grade has herpes. So you had to build
an online community.
How to build an online community was my first source of income. It started off at $2.99. It was like so affordable.
What was the research behind that? Like, what's your first step? Do I need a web designer? Do I need a programmer?
The first website I had someone build. Personally, I wouldn't do that if you're starting off. I would, there's so many easy ways right now. There's so many just templates you can get.
Yeah, right now it's great.
Right now it's super easy. You can
go to Wix or Squarespace and just build a business.
Any of that.
But back then, 4 years ago,
I had to do it. So I built all those websites. On WordPress, which is kind of like talking to a BlackBerry versus iPhone. You're like, whoa, like coding and like
going from that.
So
going from the YouTube to the website.
Notice my YouTube videos were getting everything. So I basically then redesigned my website. I can't tell you how many different websites I've had with Life with Herpes, probably like 10 different homepages. Like it's always being changed. And I also surrounded myself with a lot of people that were doing this ahead of me. So
cool.
I hired coaches, or I hired business coaches or people that could do it. So right now I have someone that has he transformed my business by making it very, my funnel is very exact and very simple. And then the behind the scenes of emails that go out that are like, if they clicked this button, then this email goes out. But if they don't click this button, then that email goes out. And if they click this, then that goes out. So it's the content behind the scenes is like, absolutely, it's amazing. I don't even.
Well, that's just, you're building the infrastructure basically. And we haven't even talked about content.
No.
Because you make your own content.
I do.
Right? Your video content.
I do.
So that's one part of the puzzle, right? Yeah. Talk about that process okay, now I have this platform.
Yeah.
I built a website and I'm making, are you making content this whole time? Yeah. Talk about that. Just kind of like,
and obviously, I'm just going at it as like much.
So what platforms are you using to talk to your audience besides the website? Are you texting? Are you emailing?
So at the time it was YouTube, iTunes, and just my website. I had a lame email that went out. Like super lame.
Yeah.
Like, but it's because it's hard and it takes work and you're trying to figure out.
So you're just reaching out to multiple platforms, talking to your community.
Basically throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what fit. And then the sooner that you kind of hone in and go, okay, my traffic is coming from YouTube.
Because people are searching this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So reaching little milestones like, oh, you got this many people. Now you can monetize your YouTube channel and like all these little things, like you just reach all these little milestones. It's exciting. But, I was blogging, I was recording, I was just hammering out videos as much as I could.
How many would you say you were doing?
I would do,
the most?
Well,
like how much content were you pumping
one
out?
a week.
Yeah.
One a week. But I would interview people. I would edit. I would write, edit, produce, create all the social media for it. So the Instagram posts, Facebook posts, like all that content was being produced on my end.
And then are you basically just learning as you go?
Oh, totally.
You're just making it up too.
Totally.
Yeah. But the good thing about you is, because I've done work for you, you're organized.
That's so funny you say that. So thank you.
You are though.
Yeah.
You sent a spreadsheet of videos. Like you're like, here's a hard drive, and it was all organized.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you had a Google Doc spreadsheet of all the videos and content for 2020. Yeah. So the reason why I want to say that is I want people to know that it is work. It's like you have to have a system. You can't just be.
It is a business.
Yeah.
If you're going to do this, you have to have a business.
At least the marketing part of it, right?
Absolutely.
And just getting out your word.
Yeah. So, what I do is I plan the content before the year. So we're getting into 2021. Ideally, I would have liked to have this planned in October. I usually sit down in October and plan out the whole year ahead. Right. So topics, I may not have every single topic, but I've broken my business, Life with Herpes, I've broken it down into 4 topics. So those 4 topics, I basically just rotate through.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's my strategy. And I batch. I'll record. I can do no more than 6 videos a day. Otherwise, you start rambling and don't know what you're talking about.
Gets tiring.
Yeah. It's tiring. So I'll do. It's
better to batch though.
Yeah, I'll
then
batch.
You can just change outfits.
Exactly. You're in it. It's a long day. It's a hard day. You're done at the end of the day. You're not doing anything else.
Yeah. Then you have mommy life now.
Oh my gosh. So it's so interesting now. Yeah. Like before you have a child, you think you're busy, right? And you're like, oh man. And then you have a child and you're like, you don't know what busy is. And you don't know.
I don't know.
You don't know. Yeah. You don't know what busy is. You also don't know what sleep deprivation is. Like you think like you've like had bad nights of sleep. Like you have no idea anymore. Like and how you function on like 4 hours of sleep over a month worth of time. Like it's just, how does that happen? But one of the things that I've gotten extremely diligent with is my time, right? I only have a certain amount of time, that I have that I can work on this. So it is like door shut, head down, working. There's no like, oh, let me go to lunch with a friend.
Do you think it's because you were thrown into a job and a career early on that you get that work ethic, right?
Totally.
And you said something earlier about like you believe people should have some sort of sales background.
Absolutely.
Repeat that for.
Yeah. I think at some point in your life, you should either work sales, like retail, or in the restaurant industry, because those are 2 things that we always will go to as adults throughout the rest of your life. And it just, it gives you an appreciation for the person that is working for you. So whether a waiter or waitress, like, like don't trash the table. If you're a waitress, you're probably not going to leave your table trashed.
Sure. Yeah.
If you worked in a department store, you're probably not going to leave 7 pairs or 27 pairs of jeans on the floor.
When you also can't, I didn't go to college, but you can't, I don't think you can learn that in college.
No.
Like the experience of,
life experience.
The field experience, right? Yeah. And then what's cool about those experiences, I think, is it can translate from different career paths and industries, like it's a broad thing, customer service, right? And sales, like that applies to pretty much every business out there.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. I think, is that all I need? I learned a lot from you today.
Great. Yeah. But I would say.
Is there anything you want to kind of talk about?
Yeah. So about Life with Herpes.
Your products.
Oh my gosh. Now I have products.
Yeah. Now you have products.
Right.
So talk about that.
Yeah. So
Secret Society, is that?
Yeah. The Secret Society Wellness.
Mm-hmm. That's the name. That's the brand.
The brand. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I created some products, some wellness products. So I have lip balms, lotions, oils, things that are designed for people with herpes to either help keep an outbreak away or help an outbreak, when they get outbreaks, help it recover a little bit faster. So we've added CBD to it to help your overall mood, to keep you chilled out, so you're not stressed out and causing yourself an outbreak, as well as that helps with the pain, it helps with the sting. And then we've used essential oils, we've used lysine and lots of things, lots of products, all organic. It's actually made here locally in Las Vegas. And they're great. I love them.
When did you launch this?
I launched it
this year
when I was pregnant. So I launched it in 19.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're monetized, and then do you sell these products off YouTube too? Like links? Yeah. Are you allowed to do that? Oh, cool. So you're having now 2 forms of income streams.
So I have my Life with Herpes. I have my products.
Yeah.
I also
What's
do
the
coaching.
next thing besides taking over this co-hosting? Alexandra's going to be on this more than I am.
My next thing.
Yeah. So what's your next venture?
Just continuing to grow my products. And I think they're great. They're not just for people with herpes. They're truly, truly great. So just continuing to grow that, grow my Instagram, and, just enjoy my little boy and my husband. But one of the things I really want to share about, because we kind of like jumped into Life with Herpes, and I know like you hear the word herpes, that's shocking. One of the things that I think business people can learn from this is we all have a stigma. We all have something that's attached to us that's like, ooh, I don't want anybody to know that. And the fact is whatever it is, we all have a similar insecurity, whether it's herpes, whether it's addiction, whether it's whatever it is, whether it's PTSD, whatever that is something that we use to hold us back from whatever it is that we want to accomplish. So when you're diagnosed with herpes, you set this glass ceiling really low for yourself. And I've seen so many people, like I've talked to people who've dropped out of school, dropped out of the universities. I've talked to people who were like, I wanted to be in the military and I didn't feel comfortable. I've talked to people who were in the middle of an adoption process and, they wanted to adopt a little baby and they decided not to adopt because now they have genital herpes. And I'm like, what is this like? So my point is everyone listening, you have that in your own situation, whatever it is. It may not be herpes, but whatever it is.
Yeah.
Don't let that hold you back and figure out a way to use that to empower you. So you may not have a podcast or YouTube channel talking about herpes outbreaks, but you can use that in your business or in your everyday life.
Yeah. Well, I'm inspired by you.
All right. I like it.
That's cool. We have to talk a little bit more off camera about what's going on. Alexandra Harbushka. Oh, that's the wrong button.
Like it.
Alexandra Harbushka.